What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Honeypot, the newest betting show brought to you by 49ers Hive. We are here. We are at Super Bowl Sunday. It is finally here. Thanks for rocking with us this entire season. To be fair, we didn't start about halfway through the season with this show, but still, thanks for rocking with us. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Christian Dyer, and today we got a special co-host with us, Anthony Perry of 49ers Hive. Thank you guys for being here. We got a great show planned for you this evening, and we're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste any of your time. Let's make some money here. With that said, we're going to get right into it with passing yards. So the props at MyBookie, and Christian, I'll start with you. They have Brock Purdy over under 247.5. How you feeling?
See, this one's hard for me. I want to take the under just because if the Niners are going to win, it's because they're running the ball. Purdy's throwing the ball maybe 20 to 25 times. So I would take the under here just because if the game's going to be won, it's going to be with the run game, really for both teams. So I would take the under. I don't think either quarterback's going to reach 300 yards. I just think it's mostly going to be about the run game. So it's going to be run the ball, efficient pass. I don't think there's going to be room to have to get to a high amount of yards in this game, just because you're going to rush for 200 to 300 yards and pass for 150, 175 yards.
Okay, yeah, no, I the rushing attack is going to be vital for the 49ers in this game. Perry, same question, but also Mahomes is at 261.5. How do you feel about either of these?
So I'm with Christian. I'm really close. 247 is kind of a really sketch number. Not a bad way, obviously, but it seems like one of those games where we'll either see Purdy finish at 240 or about 250. But again, like Christian said, I'd like to lean towards a run game a little more. This is a really big game for Christian McCaffrey. And all the advanced stats through Warren Sharp, through Next Gen Stats, all favor the 49ers offensive ground game. And that starts with someone like McCaffrey, where we know the workload is going to go to him. So Purdy, 247.5. I'm personally taking the under as well. I think this will be a game where Purdy is just going to need to make the throws he needs to make, but that necessarily doesn't require him to throw 30 plus times. If we see Purdy hit that 30 mark and above, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that number hit over 250, but I personally don't believe he'll hit over 30 pass attempts at all. So it should be a pretty smooth game for Purdy. But as for Mahomes, I am absolutely slamming his over. The only reason why isn't because I don't believe in our defense, but it's because I really think the 49ers can't stop Isaiah Pacheco as a running back. I know the Niners run defense has not been the best in the second half of the season. However, the way I look at it is the fact that they've gone up against runners like Jahmyr Gibbs and Aaron Jones, who are quick, shifty, can break tackles. These guys have been very elusive all season long. And then you get into someone like Isaiah Pacheco, who isn't as elusive. He isn't as fast or as quick. He's just a strong runner. But I think that strong running really works in the 49ers' favor for the defense. They play just as physical in that match as well. Because of that, I'm 100% expecting 49ers to just shut down Kansas City's running game, therefore forcing Mahomes to throw a lot. They might not have the weapons, but it's still Mahomes at the end of the day. He will hit some crazy throws. There will be yards to be had. And I think throughout the game, if we see the 49ers just run away with it early, it will be a comeback game for Mahomes. He'll have to play a lot of catch up. So that 267.5, I am absolutely slamming that over.
Yeah, man, that's a great point. I think that the way it's shaping out, this could be like Brock Purdy, 225 passing yards. They lean on the running game. As a young team, or I should say a team with a young quarterback you should put all that on his shoulders and expect him to go out there and pass it 38, 39 times, need him to pass for 400 yards. I think on the flip side, like Perry said, for the Chiefs to win this game, they basically do need Mahomes to put that team on his shoulders and will them to victory. The 49ers, not so much. It's a lot more spread out, at least when it comes to like the talent distribution on this offense. So I'm with both of you guys there. And I do think that those are good values for those two props. The props, by the way, the over-under on passing attempts is Purdy at 30.5 and Mahomes at 37.5. So it sounds like we'd each take Purdy under, Mahomes over. No? What do you say, Christian?
The two where it's at is right at about the average a little bit over the average the Mahomes thrown in all the 3 Super Bowls he's played in. He's never reached 300 yards. And we're talking he hasn't reached 300 yards with the high-powered offenses he's had in the other Super Bowls. This is the offense this year where it's all and all his yards are coming are from Yak. So for me, it's hard to take the over from Mahomes because I know that he's going to have to pass to win. But if he has to pass to win to come back and throw the ball down the field, they're not going to win. So it's hard because he hasn't reached 300 and it's right at his average. So I would hit the under just because of that fact that it's right at his average. He hasn't thrown for very many yards in the other 3 Super Bowls, and on the fact that their offense is so dink and dunk that it's hard for me to see him getting to that many yards.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I hear you. Let's move on to the running backs. If the 49ers, we've said, if the 49ers are going to win this one, it's going to come down to Christian McCaffrey. And his over-under, according to MyBookie, rushing yards is currently at 91.5 yards. His carries is currently at 18.5. Perry, how you feeling?
So Christian McCaffrey's rushing yards total, I'm hitting that over 1,000,000%. And it's not just about his skill set; it's just about volume alone. McCaffrey just gets the ball. But even if in this case he's at 18 rush attempts total, it's really close. I can definitely see him reaching 20, but I'm actually going to go with the under on this. And the reason why I say that is because I think we'll see Shanahan really put the ball in Debo's hands quite a bit as well. I definitely think we might even see Juszczyk get a carry. We were talking on the show earlier about Elijah Mitchell to potentially getting a carry or 2. So I think anything to kind of lighten the load a little bit on McCaffrey, because we'll see him used in the run game. Obviously, we'll see him used in the pass game as well. He will get targets. He will get receptions. With that in mind, though, I won't say that this is a pretty scary number to work with for McCaffrey. It's definitely something that I could either see going 16 or 17 right at that 18, or he's just going to hit 23 or 24. But I personally am taking the under. I really think Kyle Shanahan is going to utilize every weapon he has on the field. McCaffrey is still going to be extremely effective with his touches. I just don't think it's going to come in 18 rush attempts. I'm taking the under.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good points. Christian, what do you think?
I'm taking the over in both. I mean, they're pretty much giving it to you for 91 yards. I mean, he's going to hit that in the first half easily. And the reason I want to take the over in attempts isn't the Niners' record unblemished when he gets over 20 carries in a game, right? I don't think they've lost when he has over 20 carries. So you're going to give him 20 carries in this game, right? I mean, I just think he hit, like I said, he the over in that first half. And he's probably close to the over in the first half in carries. I mean, I think he's going to be a workhorse in the first half. So I'd take the over, especially just with the carries. For me, it's just that when he has 20 or more carries, are pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, especially I saw that video that Mina Kimes put out this week. It's like the Chiefs are like averaging 4.5 yards on defense per outside zone rush, which is like what the 49ers specialize in. If they can't stop it, we could see a repeat of what we saw in the 2019 championship game where Mostert just ran the ball all day long. Jimmy Garoppolo had 8 passes the entire game because the Packers just had no answer for it. Could we see that? Will we see that? Probably not. But if the Chiefs can't stop it, why would Shanahan go away from it? I think he learned his lesson from the 2019 Super Bowl, where Debo was on pace to be Super Bowl MVP, gashing the Chiefs every time he touched the ball. And then for some reason, midway through the third quarter, Kyle just decided to never give the ball to Debo again. So I think if it's working, he certainly will not stop it or go elsewhere. And now that I'm on Debo Samuel, Perry, I'm going to throw it back to you. His over-under rushing total is at 16.5 total yards and carries 2.5 total carries. What do you think about these numbers?
It's scary because we all know what Debo's potential is, But going back to McCaffrey too, we know he's going to be the workhorse. So I would be expecting Debo to get maximum 3 carries, absolutely pushing it 4. I would personally take the over on the carries. I think he is going to be utilized in every way possible. We know Kyle Shanahan. We know he likes to make adjustments, fix his mistakes. The Debo thing was one of them, right? We saw him escape from Debo in the second half in 2019, 2020 for some reason. I think Debo is more hungry now than ever. And if anyone's going to be asking for more touches on the ball, it's Debo. I'm taking the over on the carries. And you know what? I would take the over on the rushing yards as well. I think Debo, just through this postseason, when he has been getting carries, was extremely effective. I think he got only 1 carry in the Packers game before he got hurt. That was a monumental carry, though. It was a really, really well-designed play, actually. So I think Debo will be very effective in that sense. And I think Shanahan's going to do his best to really just keep the Chiefs defense off balance as much as they can, negate that blitz that Spagnuolo likes to run. We'll see a very aggressive Chiefs defense, and I'd like to think Debo is going to capitalize off that. So I'm taking the over on the carries and absolutely the over on the rushing yards.
1,000% the same. I agree with you both on the carries and the yards. Christian, I'm going to ask you on the flip side now. The Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco, their workhorse, their main back, his over-under yards total for rushing is 69.5, and carries is at 16.5. How do you feel about these numbers?
I think I'll take over on rush yards, right? I think the Niners are going to do better at stopping the run, but I think there's still going to be yards to be had. But I'm going to the under on the carries because just knowing Andy Reid, when the Niners start to stifle the run, Andy Reid's going to be like, okay, it's time to put it. And then he's going to get away from the run. We see it so many times with the Chiefs. They're like, oh, they're going to run the ball. Nope. They start passing the ball. You're like, they should probably run the ball. Nope, they're passing it. So I'm gonna take the under on carries just because I don't trust Andy Reid to stick with the run. He's not who he is. He's a go out there and pass the ball, right? I don't see him thinking, okay, I'll keep running it, keep it in Pacheco's hands in this whole game. No, I'm putting this game in the hands of Mahomes. I think they're going to run it a little bit to start. If the Niners can get hits at the line, right, stop Pacheco early, I think they're going to get away from it. So I think there's a chance, yeah, he could get to the yards because he might break 1 or 2 here and there. You know, he's a tough runner. But I would definitely take the under on the carries because I don't see Andy Reid being able to get him the ball that many times.
Perry?
And he has to share carries with Clyde Edwards-Helaire as well. So I definitely just put under.
I will say, just looking at the Pacheco carries in the 3 playoff games, his first game against Miami, 24 carries. Buffalo, 15. Baltimore, 24. So obviously there's so many factors that go into just the way Andy Reid was using Pacheco. But I will say we could possibly see him get a ton of carries. Also, though, I definitely think there's an indoor stadium effect going on. A lot of teams that play indoor just naturally like to pass the ball a lot because it's a lot more effective to do it indoors. So I'm with you, Christian. I definitely think that Andy Reid is going to try and get away from the run game. Just naturally it happens. Just get Pat Mahomes working more and passing more. Pat Mahomes might also eat into a lot of those carries too because we know he likes to scramble. We just know he likes to run. So that could just take away from it entirely. Just to throw on my 2 bits there, I definitely think the indoor stadium thing is just another slight factor to consider as well.
It's a great point. Also, you bringing up those 3 games, what comes to mind for me is the Dolphins. They had a big lead protecting Bills. They were down, and it was kind of a shootout. Pacheco doesn't get as many carries. And then 2 weeks ago now, the championship game, they had a small lead they were protecting, so they were trying to run to kill the clock. I don't think that's what we're going to see Sunday versus the 49ers. So I think they won't be able to just kind of hand it off regardless of how many 8-man fronts they're running into. I don't think that'll be the case. Quick prop for you guys, though. Something that is only an option because of what we saw Sunday versus the Lions in the championship game. Brock Purdy, his over-under rushing total is at 12.5 yards and carries 3.5. Perry, I'll throw it back to you.
12.5 rushing yards on Brock Purdy. I am absolutely slamming that over. The reason why is the Chiefs, even without Charles Omenihu, still has a very, very solid defensive line. All of us as Niners fans know we cannot trust our offensive line one bit. And the Chiefs' corners are very good cover corners as well. So if nothing is there, the Chiefs might decide to try and spy with Nick Bolton or Willie Gay if they both play. Wouldn't be surprised to see it. Also, wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't stop Purdy from scrambling anyways. We have seen when Purdy scrambles, he's so efficient and he's so smart with it. But 12.5 yards feels like an absolute steal. 3.5, you said 3.5 on the carries or 2.5?
3.5.
3.5. Oh, man. Expecting Purdy to carry the ball at least 4 times is a lot. I personally would take the under on the carries. I think he'll be right there at 3. But in terms of just effectiveness, I would slam the over on the yards.
Okay. Christian, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think because of the Lions game and because of it feeling like it's a new part of his game and some of the confidence he's going to feel from it, I think I'm going to take the over both. And the reason I'm going to take the over on the attempts is because, yeah, our right side's weak and the rush for the Kansas City Chiefs is pretty good, but they're going to leave wide open gaps. We saw it against the Ravens. There's grass to be had, and Lamar didn't take it. So if the pressure's there, I would assume Purdy's going to see it and utilize it. I think it's going to be something they work on. They're working on this whole week on practice as part of the thing. And I think part of it too is I think Purdy's going to be so more worried about not hurting team by let me force the ball because of pressure. He's like, well, I don't need to force the ball. I can run and get his yards and then get a new set of downs. So he's going to be playing a little more, I think, a little smarter in the sense where now that he maybe has some trust in his legs, he's going to play smarter and not make some of the crazy throws he decides to make when he's under duress. He may just say, oh, let me take it. Right, there's a gap here. Let me take it. Let me go get 5, 6, 7, 8 yards real quick, stuff like that. So I'm going to take I'm going to take the over because I think a big part of winning this game is going to be Purdy utilizing his legs, right? I think the especially when he's going against man coverage, which I think the Chiefs like to run. They have really good corners that'll shut down, so they're going to want to run in man, right? They're going to want to have their corners shutting down our receivers. It's going to leave the opportunity for Purdy to have some gaps the same way we saw against the Ravens. And I think Purdy will take the opportunity to take those. And it's definitely be something if we don't see in the first half, we may even see more in the second half because Shanahan might be like, hey, we're noticing this, right? Let's make some adjustments. If you see it, just take it, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about running the clock, getting yards. So I think his legs are going to be a huge, huge, huge part of this game. So that's why I'm going to take the over. Like if I didn't do what he did against the Lions and him, I would probably say no, but I'm going to take the over in it.
Okay. Let's move on to receiving. By the way, as I'm looking at these props, I see Kyle Juszczyk's over/under on receptions is half. So I'm definitely taking the over. Kyle Juszczyk's catching a ball in this game. He scored a touchdown in that first game. So come on, let's be real here. Let's start with the 49ers. Top of the one, top receiver, Brandon Ayuk, over/under receiving yards, 61.5, and receptions, 4.5. Perry, how you feel?
Yeah, it's all the receiving options for the Niners scare me, but since we're on Ayuk, I'm going to take the under on both. I think Ayuk is definitely going to be utilized in the middle of the field or as a big play threat. The Chiefs' corners and safeties on the outside wide receivers play very well against them. McDovey and L'Jarius Sneed both are just amazing corners, amazing. And the safeties, Justin Reed on the Chiefs is just a dog too. He's very good in the middle of the field. One thing I did see though, and I will say, I personally think it's the unders on both just because this will be a huge Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel type game. Honestly, I think we'll see Kittle utilized more and Juszczyk utilized more over Ayuk. And that's not knocking him. It's just game plan. Right. But I did see a statistic that talked about how the Chiefs run a lot of single high coverage and single high safety, which in turn does lead to a lot of one-on-one matchups on those outside wide receivers. Could be a big play type of day for Ayuk. I just personally don't foresee it. I don't see this being the type of game where we'll need to see Brock Purdy throw downfield a lot. This will definitely be like a short and little less than intermediate type of game. But as for Ayuk, I think it'll be relatively quiet for him. I'm not expecting more than 5 catches. I'm not expecting more than 80 yards. I can definitely see him working in the 40 to 50 yard range, maybe off of 4 catches. But to say anything over that is a little risky with how good their secondary is. So I'm personally taking the under on both.
Okay. I'm going to go with Kittle, and then Perry, I'll ask you about Debo. But Perry, you mentioned Kittle. His over-under is sitting at 50.5 receiving yards and 4.5 receptions. And I'm going to take the over on both. I know they have Drew Tranquil. I see they're getting Willie Gay back. It looks like Willie Gay's probably going to be the leading candidate to be used as a spy for Purdy if he does rush. So that would leave Tranquil in coverage if they're going to leave a linebacker on him. I think Kittle is still the mismatch there. He's too big. He's too fast. There's not really a defender that they could put on him comfortably. Last Super Bowl, unfortunately, he had to stay in and block a lot more than we would have liked to have seen him. I don't think that's going to be the case Sunday. I think outside of Chris Jones, there really isn't that scary defensive lineman that the Chiefs had. And to their credit, it was Charles Omenihu who unfortunately tore his ACL, I believe, in that Bills game. So that's a huge loss for them. And we, of all people, would know he was a 49er just recently up until this past year. So his production is definitely missed for them, which is a benefit to the 49ers. I think that will allow them to let George go out and run routes, get open underneath, beat man coverage. I'm taking the over on yards and receptions. Perry, Debo Samuel, his over under 60.5, very similar to Brandon Ayuk's, and 4.5 as well receptions. How do you feel?
Now, this is where
I'm so sorry. I meant Christian. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, but just to get my word in quick before Christian talks, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm taking the over on both. I really like Debo.
Go ahead, Christian.
For me, I think I got to take the over for Debo. I think this is a big game for him, right? Like I know like the favorite for MVP is McCaffrey, but I think this is like a Debo MVP game. He's healthy. He's pumped up. I think he's going to play one of his best games. I think I do think like this is a lock for me, whether it's a receiver screen or a jet sweep. He's taken one of those for a big touchdown, whether it's 60, 40, 50 yards. He's taken a big he's going to score a long touchdown in this game. So you give me the over on everything because this is one of his games where he just takes it over. We've seen him do it in the playoffs before. He's that guy on the team where he's like, just give me the ball. And he matches up better against, like, especially like in receiving wise, better against the Chiefs defense and any other guys, because you just get them the ball space. The Chiefs are not known for their tackling, right? You can break tackles against their DBs. Like they're good in coverage. They're good knocking the ball down and picking the ball off. But when it comes to tackling in space, not as good. And that's Debo's forte, breaking tackles, making things happen, running hard and physical. Yeah, I expect him to just be an absolute monster in this game. I'm going to over, and he's going to take this game over.
Okay, I love it, man. It really does seem like, the clip of George Kittle saying he'll be back in the Super Bowl with the, mother effing vengeance went viral. But it seems like Debo almost willed this team to like 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. He's finally here. He was in the 2019 Super Bowl, like I said, probably leading candidate to be Super Bowl MVP, and literally had it slip right out of his fingers. So I think if anybody, he will be the one to go the extra mile, extra hard on the 49ers to make sure it happens. Now, on the Chiefs side, they have obviously Travis Kelce at 73.5 receiving yards and Rashee Rice at 67.5 receiving yards, and Travis Kelce at 6.5 receptions, Rice at 6.5 receptions as well. Perry, I'll just ask you real quick, and I'll move on because this isn't a Chiefs podcast. They can go after themselves. I'm just kidding. What do you think about those numbers for the Chiefs?
I am absolutely slamming the Kelce over. It's just sheer volume. He just gets the ball. He's having an amazing postseason too. The guy, he's just one of those players that will just get his He's like a Justin Jefferson. He's like a CeeDee Lamb at this point. He will just get his share, his work, his load. As for Rashee Rice, though, I personally am taking the under. He is definitely a very good wide receiver in open space, too. He gets a lot of yards after the catch. He's very dominant with the ball in his hands. But in terms of separation, I don't see him breaking off of Lenore or Charvarius Ward much, just naturally getting open. And that, with that being said, too, our corners tackle very, very well. Ward and Lenore are just as good at tackling as well. Jared Brown and any of the other safeties too, Gibson, they both tackle pretty well as well. So Rice is going to really need to work for extra yards. I just don't foresee that happening with Rice. In terms of receptions, I could see him topping that, but as for yards, I think Shanahan Wilkes will have a great game plan just in terms of limiting his overall effectiveness with the ball. So with that in mind, I would take the Rashee Rice yards under, Kelsey over.
Okay. All right. Let's get on to, gosh, are we on to Super Bowl MVPs? Are there any defensive props? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. They have only 2 receivers, right? The ball's either going to go to Kelsey or Rice pretty much this whole game. So I would say the overs be easy just because of the fact that it's either going to go to Rice or it's going to go to Kelsey. It's going to go to Rice or it's going to go to Kelsey. It's the only two guys that Mahomes trusts. If it goes to Valdez-Scantling, it'll be something over the top, right? It'll be one deep throw, one throw in the first half, one deep throw in the second half. So Mahomes is going to throw for at least 150 yards, and those yards are going to come from Kittle, and they're going to come from Rice, right? Take both those overs, you're still under 150 yards. So just playing it from knowing how their offense works, Perry makes a lot of sense saying taking the under on Rice, but it's also easy to take the over just because they're throwing to 2 guys, right? So I don't know.
You say that, watch. We're going to see Justin Watson go off. He's going to have 8 catches for 150 yards. Watch.
Noah Gray. End game, guys. Kadarius Toney over everything.
Right.
Yeah.
This is redemption.
Kadarius Toney's gonna have one come off his hands because when you do a dink and dunk offense, right? Since we're going to talk about defense right now, or we're talking about this, when you have a dink and dunk offense, have to be perfect at all times. This team that leads the league in drops. You can't do a dink and dunk offense and lead the league in drops. That means you're eventually going to give a deflection that's going to get intercepted or something like that. Because remember when the Niners were getting spanked by the Rams for a minute in the first game when we played them because they were dinking and dunking. What happened? Eventually those dink and dunks turned into interceptions and the Niners ended up winning by 1 score. That's kind of how the dink and dunk offense works. So there's going to be a deflection interception somewhere in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you brought up deflections, interceptions. Let's move on to defense. Sack props. They're all at 1. So props for, let me just share my screen. That'll probably be easier. Here we go. Eric Armstead plus 190, Chase Young plus 250, Chris Jones plus 110, Karlaftis plus 110, Hargrave plus 190, Dana plus 215, Bosa plus 104, and Tershawn Wharton plus 285. Obviously, Bosa's the favorite here. If this were me, I'm doing a parlay of Bosa, Jones, and Chase Young. After getting called out all 2 weeks, I think he shows up, has a sack. What do you guys think? You like?
Replace Young and put Hargrave, dude. Hargrave is getting a sack in this game.
All right, I'll place one for you with Hargrave instead of Young.
Yeah, dude. You got to think he's extra motivated. He played this team last year, right, in the Super Bowl. They stole it from him. He's got another week of rest. Hopefully his leg is feeling a lot better with that hamstring. He's going to have a game. I think he's going to be a monster up the middle all game.
Perry, do you see any here you like? Sacks?
So, what's funny to me is we all rave about Chris Jones being this dominant defensive lineman, which he is, but he actually does not have a career sack in the Super Bowl. He actually does not have very good stats in the Super Bowl at all. He might have pressures, which
neither does Mahomes.
Given, cough. Chiefs don't get Chiefs have no holding calls in their Super Bowl career either.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that in mind, though, Chris Jones doesn't have a Super Bowl sack. It's actually a really odd thing. I think teams just game plan around him a lot. So Chris Jones actually kind of scares me a bit on the sack total. But again, we are not a Chiefs podcast, so I'm going to move off the Chiefs. Zach, I'm with you though personally. I'm actually all over Nick Bosa and Chase Young as well for at least one sack. Chase Young especially, I think after getting called out all week, I think having 2 weeks to prepare especially, I think this is the worst offensive line we will be seeing in the playoffs. Now, the Chiefs are still a top 10 offensive line. Let's not get that mixed up. They are very good. But Packers and Lions are top 7. I think Chiefs are 8, 9, 10 range. That makes a big difference for our team, you know? And you look at Jawan Taylor and the other tackle who I'm blanking on entirely. I think they're good. They're not great. I think if anyone's going to exploit that, it is absolutely Chase Young and Nick Bosa alike. So slam them both on the over at least one sack. And just a bold hot take. Christian, I'm kind of with you too on Javon Hargrave. I really think like that hamstring earlier in the season has been bothering him. Now that he's had a couple weeks off to really rest and repair, I think this is a big game to go after him. And
he's going up against the backup.
Nick Allegretti.
He's going up against the backup.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic guard too. He just isn't Joe Thuney. And I think if anyone's going to take advantage of rest and a backup, it's going to be Javon Hargrave. So if we're feeling a little risky, I absolutely like Javon Hargrave +2, Bosa and Young at least 1. If not Bosa for certain, that guy shows up when it matters.
There we go. Hargrave +2, Bosa at least 1, +1350. All right, we'll go to interceptions and then we'll move on to Super Bowl MVP and final picks. I gotta get my man Mooney Ward. He's getting a pick. He's absolutely getting a pick in this game. Former teammate Patrick Mahomes. He's played with him. He's played against him now. Give me Mooney Ward 1 pick. I don't know if there's any if you like here.
Oh, I like that because if Mooney gets the pick, it's going to be one of those ones where Pat Mahomes is running out, right? He's extending the play and he throws across his body over the middle. And Mooney Ward makes him pay for it. Jordan Poyer was on Pat McAfee today talking about how Pat will throw those. He'll give you those. A lot of times, people aren't making the interception. They're not getting it. It's either somehow ending up in a Chiefs player or whatnot. I think this is the game where if Mahomes does that, it does get picked, and it is Mooney Ward. So I like that. I like that prop.
Yeah, I saw the stat that Mike Andrews brought up on the last show we did. I'm trying to remember it. Oh, you know what? Let me find it.
It's horrible. I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah. Interceptions that got reversed from penalties in the last 6 years. Patrick Mahomes has 53 interceptions reversed from penalties. Actually, that was fact checked. He has 51 interceptions reversed from penalties. So he throws them. And I think last year he led the league in like interceptable passes or passes that should have been intercepted. I don't know what the hell the stat was. It was bad. Perry, do you see anybody here you like to get a pick other than Mooney Ward?
I am expecting Mahomes to throw over 40 times. I was actually going to bring up that stat if you didn't, because I was watching that show and I was like, dude, no way.
Crazy. Crazy stat.
Oh my God, that's actually crazy. So I think just off sheer volume of passing alone, I think our corners are just too sticky, guys. I actually think Ambry played a lot better in the Detroit game. We've just seen Ward and Lenore been locked down. And I think we are going to see one of our safeties get a pick. I think a deep play to Marquez Valdez-Scantling is not going to work out. I think we will absolutely be prepared for that. And just off of the fact that he is ready to just come back, and he probably will get attacked, but I think if anyone's going to step up and get a pick, it's going to be either Jair Brown / Gip and Ambry Thomas. I think we'll see Ambry really step up. I think this is his moment and his time to shine. They're going to go after him. I firmly believe that. But if someone's going to pop it up, it's definitely one of the safeties and Ambry. I love it. I love that too. I love that too. I think Mahomes is going to throw 2 picks minimum. I don't think it's going to be some crazy 4-pick game, but I am expecting 2.
Okay, so he threw 2 against the 49ers in 2019. I believe he threw 2 against the Bucks the year or 2 years after that. And then he threw at least 1 last year that I remember. So he's throwing, 3 Super Bowls, 5 picks, a little under 2 picks per game.
You have to make must play behind, right? The Niners need to get a lead because once the Chiefs are playing from behind and they're trying to come back, that's when the opportunities for interceptions are going to happen.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
they played so much with the lead in these playoffs. They've said Mahomes hasn't even had one turnover worthy throw because
He
they
hasn't
have
needed
played with
to.
such a
He hasn't
lead.
needed to have
He
a
hasn't
turnover lead.
needed to, right? He hasn't really, like, the Chiefs haven't really been stressed that much in this playoffs, right? You have one team that's been, faced a lot of adversity in the playoffs and one team that hasn't at all. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Niners can get one score, two score lead, how the Chiefs are able to deal with that. I think that's where the interceptions come.
Yeah. All right, guys. Second to last topic, Super Bowl MVP props. You see Mahomes leading the pack, plus 121. Purdy right behind him, plus 189. By the way, just want to say Brock Purdy in his second year, first full year starter, received more MVP votes than Russell Wilson ever has. Just throwing that out there. Perry, I'll start with you. Who do you like for Super Bowl MVP off this list?
Look at Sam Darnold having plus 20,000 odds. That's so weird. I just had to point that out. That's kind of tripping me out a little bit. Also
coming in to save the day.
Also kind of scary that he's higher than some other players too. I'm like, why? What's going on?
That is weird.
Nah. I'm sorry, guys. With that in mind, I think a lot of people will ride on either McCaffrey or Deebo, but I actually really like George Kittle, guys. I love that plus 6,400. I really think this is going to be, it's not going to be a deep passing game for Purdy. It isn't. It's going to be a lot of short and intermediate stuff. I don't think the Chiefs linebackers match up that well against George Kittle. I really don't. I also thought Kittle was severely underutilized against Detroit. I think we all were expecting Kittle to blow up, but I think on the biggest stage of them all, this team is playing so much harder for Purdy than I thought they were for Garoppolo. We all know why we're here. They all know why they're here. Kittle has been just the most vocal. He's been the most ready to ball, ready to play, and especially losing out on Omenihu, Zach. I thought that was a great point you made, is that I think we'll see Kittle run a lot more routes and just have room to operate. So with that in mind, I love George Kittle plus 6,400. I think that's an absolute steal. And if anyone's going to eat in the passing game more than any of our receiving options, it's going to be Kittle.
Okay. Christian, I'll go last. Who do you like here?
I got to take Deebo. Like, I think McCaffrey probably will win it, but for me, I got to take Deebo because I think, like I said, he's going to have one of those big plays where he takes it for a long time. I think every time he touches the ball, it's going to be super efficient, where he's getting huge positive gains, breaking tackles, just snatch gains every time he touches the ball. He's going to be an absolute monster, and I think he's going to get MVP because he's going to be so intricate to, plays when you need him most.
Yep. Boy, do I wish somebody on the Chiefs talked shit about Deebo this week, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't need it. Gentlemen, I am taking somebody that is currently not on this screen because you got to scroll down, and this big bald motherfucker is right here. Jawan Jennings at plus 32,000. Plus 32,000. Christian, have I not told you for the past month that Super Bowl MVP is going to go to a guy like Jawan Jennings? Have I not said that on this show? I feel like I've said that on the show.
You've said it. You've said it multiple times, and you could be right, dude. He's super clutch.
Yep.
He might make that one clutch. If it's a close game, he's going to make that clutch catch that wins the Niners the Super Bowl, and then they're going to give it to him because he makes it.
Yep. Imagine
he's made clutch
5 catches for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the Niners win.
It would be amazing, absolutely amazing if he was the one to win the MVP.
Been on my mind. It's been on my mind all week. We saw the crazy David Tyree catch, right? We saw Julian Edelman pull off that crazy catch too. I think we are just overdue for some type of crazy Super Bowl catch. And if anyone's going to pull it off, it's Jawan. I don't know why. It's been on my mind all week. I think when it comes to just overall sheer ability to clutch up when it matters most, it's been Jawan. Zach,
he had one against the Lions.
I love that.
That's right.
He had that big one-hander that he brought down that Purdy floated
on 3rd
over.
and 4.
Yeah.
All right. Let's end this show, guys, with our Super Bowl picks. Let me pull them up here. So, 49ers by 2, money line, sorry, 2 or money line at the over under 47.5. Perry, you can go first.
Obviously, we're talking about the -2 spread. I just really don't foresee this game coming down to a Jake Moody field goal or Harrison Butker miss, for that matter. Man, when it comes to the second half, we didn't even really touch on it much, but just to briefly summarize, the Chiefs are not a good offense in the second half at all. At all. The Niners is the total opposite. Matt brought it up on your show the other day. The Niners just have the horses. They do. And when it comes down to when it matters the most and who's going to need to make the most plays, the Niners are just that team. So I really think it's a runaway game for the Niners. I love -2. Money line, -125 outright. I mean, I foresee them winning to begin with. That, kind of just is what it is. The over-under on the 47.5 is really interesting. And the only reason why I say that is because I just don't quite know if I believe in the Chiefs offense scoring in the 20s. I really don't. A lot of people are predicting that just because of Mahomes, but Christian's been talking about it really well a lot, is that it's a dink and dunk offense. And the Niners have been elite at the red zone defense all season long and in the playoffs as well. So I really believe in the Niners defense being able to shut it down. I think the Niners offense alone can just drop 30. You guys have heard it from me. I personally think it's going to be 34-14. So I'm just over 48. But when we're talking about it, I just really believe in a one-sided game, guys. I like the under on the total personally.
Really? Okay. So you want the spread and the under.
Yeah.
All right. I got you. Christian, good sir. What do you like here?
I like the Niners to cover, and I'll take the under as well. I think the Niners are going to win, because I'm thinking 27-17, something like that, 24-17, even 30-17. 30-17 probably makes the most sense to me, so that gives you right at the, because it's 47 and you need 47.5, so it puts me right at 47. So I'm going to say 30-17. Nice.
Sign me up for the same exact thing, because I think on the show last night, I think I said 34-13, something like that. That's right at 47 and the 49ers cover. I really do think this is the year the 49ers get it done. I can't see them not taking care of business, especially in the second half. It's like, Perry, we've talked about this. If they can withstand the early attack from the Chiefs and continue to just take those punches in the first and second quarter, as long as they continue to score, even if it's 7 or 10 points in the second half, that might be too much for this Chiefs team to overcome. I think they'll be able to score a touchdown each quarter and just pull away late.
Here's to me the most important thing. Really, I think one of the most important decisions of the game. Niners should start with the ball. Here's the reason why. Niners defense plays better with the lead. Niners offense goes down the field and scores. Normally when we start with the ball, when they're not playing from behind, because there's not as much pressure to start the game. And then if the Chiefs are already down, they're going to want to push the ball down the field. They're going to want to score, right? They're going to feel a little more antsy than just dink and dunk. And then that's when the drop passes happen. That's when the overthrows happen, or the underthrows. We've had a little bit of both from Mahomes this year. And then that's when the interceptions, the bad throws happen, right? I think that's such an intricate part of the game. Who starts with the ball? That's really what, to me, how the first half's going to go, right? Also, I don't know, the other prop that I like that I don't know if you can find it everywhere, a non skill player scoring a touchdown. I don't know what it's titled as, because I still think there's a slight chance that the Silverback gets a touchdown this game.
I like that.
I think he runs it. I think the Niners are on the 1 or 2 yard line. They put him at fullback and they let him run it in.
Yep. All I'll say, Christian, is I agree with you that it is intriguing for the 49ers to start with the ball, but I would hate for them to get here and switch it up. Like you were doing it all year. Don't switch just because it's a Super Bowl. Even though I agree with you, the last few weeks it hasn't really worked. Like they've let opposing defenses march right down the field. It's not the defense of before, but like I've said previously, if there was ever a time for this defense to get called out by players, coaches, the GM, the owner, it was right before the biggest game of the year. So hopefully, if they do win the coin toss and defer, we see a different effort on defense, which it blows my mind the fact that we're even having this conversation this late into the year. Like effort should not be a conversation of a championship team in late January, but that's where we're. So hopefully it's addressed and hopefully it's taken care of.
Part of it is Wilkes' scheme though, because when Wilkes made adjustments and changed his scheme in the second half of the game against the Lions, the Niners defense was a lot better. So if Wilkes isn't coming out in base defense or, and he's coming out in his zone that he wants to run, but he's coming out with changing looks and different looks, the same way we saw where you had Greenlaw making it look like man on that 4th and 2, tricked Goff into thinking he had man coverage. It ends up being zone coverage. He doesn't have Gibbs, and then he ends up having to roll out and throws a complete pass, right? You want that kind of zone play calling right off the bat from Wilkes, because if he's in his bag, right, if you look at the stats, the Chiefs are actually not as good against zone coverage as they are man coverage, right? Wilkes normally prefers to run zone coverage, get the front four to get pressure. As long as the scheme is good, I think you'll see a difference too. And I think the Niners don't really have to do the Tampa 2 where they do 2 deep safeties in the zone, because of the fact that you don't really have to worry too much about the Chiefs throwing the ball down the field. They haven't done it all year. Mm-hmm. So if you have to change to that later, okay, but run the zone, bring the safeties up. That's kind of the difference, I think, too, is the Niners lost to Hufanga. I don't think Hufanga liked playing deep as a safety because he helped a lot in the run game, right? And he was making plays more in the middle of the field. Ever since he got hurt, we've run a lot more deep safety coverages. So that's hurting the run game. That's kind of what hurt the Niners in the first 2 playoff games is the deep safeties. They weren't able to get over and make plays quick enough because the linebackers were even playing back too far. So I think it's mostly scheme. Yeah, there's a little bit of effort here. I think the effort was the 2 touchdowns we saw where there's some lack of effort, but I think most of it was scheme. So as long as the scheme is correct, I don't see it as an issue, and I see more Niners being more dominant defense. I actually think Wilkes is probably one of the better defensive coordinators. I think with 2 weeks, because the game plan he had against the Jaguars was, their offense was humming when Niners went up against them, and Wilkes's game was beautiful in that game. So I think we're not going to see the same Niners defense that we saw the 2 previous weeks.
That'd be great. That would be great. All I'll say is it's not a surprise to come from Chase Young. That's kind of the MO on him coming out of Washington. Perry, did you have something to add here before we wrap up?
I was just going to say, I think the Chiefs' touchdown streak on the opening drive is going to just stop. I think we're going to them, like
so straight up.
That's the reason why I think the game's going to be the under, is because I think the Chiefs' offense is honestly really overrated. It really is. It matches well against our defense. I don't foresee Kansas City even scoring more than 20. So whether Wilkes calls a good game or not, I just think our players will step up when it matters most. So, it's going back to the entire over-under thing. It just kind of hardens my belief in the why I think it'll be the under.
Well said, man. Well said. And again, 6 times they did not score in the second half this year, including their last game. So 6 times they did not score. It's Patrick Mahomes had like 68 yards passing in the second half. And I've had Chiefs fans tell me, well, that's because they wanted it that way. Like it was a 7-point game for most of that second half. You can't tell me they were sitting on this 20-point lead where they didn't have to pass. Like it was a very much close game in the championship game. Go ahead, Christian.
In my opinion, if the Niners scored over 20 points, they're going to win this game. That's it. That's what it is. The Niners have to get over 20, get over that 20 hump. They're going to win. They're 20-0 with Purdy when they score over 20 points.
Yeah. It's a race to
And
24 for me. That's all I'll say.
It really is. It's like, and I think when teams score, when the Chiefs held teams to under 20, they haven't lost either. So it's race to 20.
Great point.
For me, it's
Great
race
point.
to 20. Race to 20, right? Get those 3 touchdowns, no field goals, 3 straight touchdowns. Boom. You're already at 21. There you go. Especially you get that in the first half. The Chiefs just fall apart in the second half. And the way that their defense is, or offense is, I kind of even can see why. Andy Reid, he's amazing. He can do all these crazy things in the first half. It runs out of steam in the second half.
Yeah. I'll say this is going to be the perfect game for Noah Gray, Justin Watson, Elijah Mitchell to be the only players to score touchdowns, just like everybody predicted, right?
The garbage time is going to go crazy. The garbage time is going to go crazy.
All right, guys. That's it for our Super Bowl edition of Honeypot. Thank you, everybody, for rocking with us this season. We'll be back next season from week 1, maybe even from preseason. I don't know. We haven't thought that far ahead. But this show started halfway through the year this season. I promise you, stick with us. We're only getting better. Perry, thank you so much for coming on and wrapping up the season with us. I assume all of us will be on our flagship show Sunday after the game, celebrating a 49ers Lombardi win. Any final words, fellas? No?
Go Niners.
Go Niners.
Go Niners, guys. It's just, I mean, you said it best. I forgot. I already forgot who said it. It's a race to 24. Zach, I think it was you. I swear we were saying that in 2019, 2022. I feel like I remember those words. Right there on the BS Kittle OPI.
They got to 20.
Entirely. They got to 20. Yeah. Anyways, though, yeah, I agree. It's a race to 24. Just in the words of Matt Llewellyn, Niners have the horses. Teams with the fastest horses win the race.
Perfectly said. I'll say, before I toss to Christian to end it, if they're stuck at 17 for like a couple possessions, my mind's going to be fucking racing because they lost 3 straight this year where they only scored 17 or something like that. I forget what. Don't only score 17, please. Christian, end it for us. Bring us home.
Let's go get this win. Kyle, don't freaking outcoach yourself. I know you're freaking ready to go. Show the world you're the best coach in this league, right? You're the young version of Andy Reid. It's time for you to take the mantle. Let's go get this, right? There is one Super Bowl win in my lifetime. I was only a year old. I need to see this, right? Okay. I can't handle a loss. Don't do this to me. And let's go blow them out. I am sick and tired of I can't pick against Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady. I'm sorry. He's just not. But I'm sorry. The only reason I'm picking the Chiefs, it's not because they're the better team. It's because they have Mahomes, right? I'm watching the Muppets. I can't not go with Kermit. He's my guy, right? You got to pick Kermit the Frog. He's got his guy Fozzie Bear that he's throwing the ball to. Miss Piggy's up in the box.
All right. Let's wrap it up here.
I was trying to
carried away there.
Comedy. I'm sorry. I was just trying to be funny.
All right. Go Niners. We will be live Sunday after the game. Come join us. Come recap the Super Bowl with us. We'll be celebrating. Again, thank you, Perry. Thank you, Christian. Our handles are on the screen. Make sure you go follow all of us on X. And thanks for sticking with us this season. Appreciate you guys. Take care.